have a good understanding of the common openings that are present in most people's defense when they're facing with a fighting knife. The first common opening that you're going to see all the time is what we call still hand. As Felix comes on guard, he holds his knife hand still. That presents a lot of different openings for me to attack. If I notice his hand is still, I can attack underneath in the upward angle stabbing attack where it's hard for him to see. We showed that earlier. I can attack with a hooking thrust to the inside, or I can just step this way and turn my blade and stick in the point. All it is a quick little wrist movement like that, and I drive my point in. I can come over the top, turn my wrist, and attack with my point on the inside, and I can turn my wrist and attack with my point on the outside. Again, this comes from what we're talking about when we borrow from a pay fencing, the ability to turn our wrist to present our point at the angle we want to go around obstacles. So it's important that you remember to do this. Anytime this hand is still, it gives you an opportunity to whip it, you can snap cut it, you can slash it, you can give it a good cut, you can chop it off. It gives you openings for all of your offensive strokes with a point in the edge, anytime that hand is still. Next opening that you're going to often see is the hand may be moving up and down. You may be moving the blade around, but the forearm isn't really moving. So all you have to do is step out a little bit to get the right angle and attack that still forearm. It's not moving, it's stationary. You can go for it. I like to attack it this way. Just a quick snap cut. As I move here and I recognize that opening, I may move to this side to take his attention over. As the attention comes over here, I'll take that still forearm with a snap cut. You can take it a lot of different ways. You can come underneath, this way. You can come by and stab it. But in my experience, the best way is come over here and just snap cut it as you're moving to safety. People rest and hold still at the most inopportune times for their own defense. When he's standing still and he's not in motion, he has a harder time reacting to your offensive movements. If he's in motion, his reaction time is faster. When he's still, he's more vulnerable. So look for anytime your opponent is still, you can pick something off. If he's still here, I can pick something off. When he's still, I can pick off his hand. When he's still, I can pick off his leg easier. When he's still, I can pick off his face easier. Anytime your opponent is for even a split second not moving, he's vulnerable. Watch for it. See what's open. The next common opening is a repeating hand pattern. When we showed you earlier how to defend yourself against attacks on your knife hand, how to avoid them, we showed you some different hand patterns. At that time, I told you to mix those hand patterns up. Watch for a repeating hand pattern. If your opponent is giving you the same avoidance pattern, let's say he's going up and down diagonally. As soon as you key to that, you can time it and move in and hit that exposed forearm. As he comes up, as he comes down, he's moving away, he's exposing that forearm. You can time that, move in, and pick that off. Look for that repeating hand pattern. You can attack it from underneath. Give me that repeating hand pattern 3 times. As he comes down, I'll take that, just keep going. You'll see just as he comes down, I'll cut into that line on the underneath side of his hand. Look, let's get some more repeating hand patterns. As he gives me a circular pattern, I'll pick that up. What he's doing wrong right here is the wrist is moving. He thinks that he's giving me an avoidance pattern, but really the only thing that's moving is his wrist. His forearm's holding still. So you'll notice when I do an avoidance pattern, I make my whole arm move. He's just moving his wrist, so I can ignore this little amount of movement here, where his wrist is turning, because this is exposed here. As I watch his wrist cut this pattern, I'll just come to this side and attack his forearm or his elbow, because they're exposed. Now, if he was doing this properly, move your arm. it's harder to time that and get in because the vulnerable areas are in motion. Don't sit there and go like this with an avoidance pattern. Your whole arm has to be moving to make it difficult for him to track. Exposed form. As people are moving around, as we turn them and move them in our long-range strategy, as I turn and move him, he may expose his form for a split second. As I notice that, I'll cut that. So look for him to cross and show you this. Anytime you see an opponent go like this, he's exposed that form. He may have done it in a strike where he went past the center line. We're going to get to that in a minute. You see that. Look for something that looks like this. When you see this, say, thank you, Jesus, because you're going to take it right there in that opportunity, right there in that moment, and cut that arm off. Look for exposed form. You want to have your knife in front of your form. You don't want to have your form in the same plane with your knife, parallel to your knife blade. You want to have your knife in front as much as you can. Anytime you find yourself with your form exposed, you need to get back and get your body and your arm back behind your knife. Exposed elbows are the next things to always look for. A lot of times people, as they move, when they get excited, they tend to crouch and they come out of their fighting stance and their elbows come out. Look for that. You try to keep your elbows in as much as you can. Watch your opponent though, because I guarantee you, as you make him move in our long-range knife fighting pattern, we're going to get to this more, as you make him move, his stance will start to break down and he'll start to expose his body. Watch for those elbows to come out. On the knife hand, watch for the elbow to come out here. Just a little bit. When it comes out this much, you've got a pretty good opportunity to attack the edge of that elbow because you're pretty far distance away from that knife hand. I can squirt to this side and just cut off the tip of that elbow. You hit this elbow with a tanto or a trailmaster or a taipan, any full-size fighting knife. You hit that and cut the tip of that elbow off, he's a changed man. He's not the knife fighter he was a moment before. It's even worse on this side. Let's spin so they can see. Not too far. There's about it here. When he pooches this elbow out on this side, that's even better because now you can step a long ways away from his knife and cut that elbow. You can stab it too. Don't just think that you always have to cut. I can stab it that. Here I hit his form. But you can, when you see this exposed, you can stick that with your knife. Now you saw what happened when we stabbed the leather glove with the carrots. You stick the point of your taipan into that elbow, he's a changed man. Right, took his elbow. Another opening that you're going to see all the time in your opponent's defense is what we call the exposed flank. As you make him move and you lead him around, you're going to break down his guard position, his fighting stance position, and he's going to start exposing parts of his body he's not aware of. A lot of times when you make him move, he'll step forward and he'll expose the flank. All of a sudden his knife's going to go back and this whole flank is going to be vulnerable. From his shoulder to his elbow to this lead leg. What you can do now is step the outside and just clip off the edge of that elbow. I always like to try to move as far away as I can from that knife hand for safety. I may even look this or move this way to make him think I'm going to go this way. I may even bend this way and then step here and cut that elbow. I like to cut the elbow because it gets you the furthest distance away from that knife hand. Another thing you can do, let's turn a little bit, stay in the same position so the camera can see me move, is I'll lead my opponent's attention this way so that he thinks that I'm moving away and that he might be in a position of safety. As I move away, I'm going to switch hands and come back and cut it. So I'm going to give him the illusion of safety or the illusion of a safe distance. As I move away, I'm going to turn back into him and cut it. Always look for an exposed flank. The next thing that you're going to see that we've talked about and harped about is an exposed head, a crouching head or a forward tilting head. You're going to see this constantly. A lot of people, as soon as they pull out the knife, they're going to crouch and move it or tilt their head forward. When you see this, you want to thank God because you've got a really good chance of winning almost immediately. When somebody crouches and tilts their head forward, you've got a straight shot into their face. It's very easy to come right in here. You can come on guard. Felix is on guard, his head's tilted forward, and I just stab him. Just stab him. It's also very easy to come up high here and snap cut him on the top of the head. Just like that. Like lightning. You see his head's tilted forward? Right there. End of the fight. Look for a forward and tilted head. Don't forget that you can attack on super high lines too. And I'm going to go into this more in a minute. But don't forget those high lines. I've harped on standing square. When you come on guard and you're in your fighting position, remember I always want you to pull that shoulder back and narrow your body. Get your knife in front. Get your light hand here. Get your knees bent. Get your heel up. Don't stand square. But as you move your opponent around, you're going to see him come out. As he moves, he's going to start getting more and more and more square. To the end, he may look like something like this. When your opponent is standing square to you, like that, just come on guard a little bit but stay square. When he comes square, you have a good opportunity. It's not quite as good as an exposed flank, but you have a good opportunity to move to this side and cut his elbow. Let's turn so they can see that. He stands square. I can come to this side and cut the elbow. I can come to this side, drop, cut that leg right off. If you've got a Bowie knife and you see him turn square, you can take a big step here, drop, cut him right above the knee, and he'll flop. Because he can't stand on that leg, it won't be there anymore. End of the fight. Always look for your opponent to stand square because his knife can't defend very well this side of his body. It has to travel a long distance and a long ways back to get that. So when he stands square, he's giving you this whole side of his body from here down is a lot more vulnerable than if his body is tilted and behind the knife. Anytime your opponent's stance is too deep, he exposes his front leg. He gets it far away from his knife that's defending and makes it more vulnerable to my attack. Always watch for someone that has an exposed front leg. It's too deep. You guys that study Kung Fu in particular, I've noticed when you pick up a knife, you get into fairly long stances. It may work for Kung Fu, but it's not too good for knife fighting because you're giving me that front leg. So you really need to pay attention to that. You want to keep your stance only one step out. You don't want to make it too long. But as you move people around, their fighting posture changes when you make them move, and quite often they'll get too long. When he gets too long, wait till his knife comes up. If he's long and you can see his knife come up, it's a good opportunity for you to jump underneath it and cut his leg off. It really exposes the leg. On a shorter guy, like Felix and me, it's a long ways in there. You've got to go down a long ways to reach that exposed front leg. But against tall guys that are over 6 foot tall, I only have to move down just a little bit to attack your front leg. I don't have to jump in and go deep to cut your leg. I can just move in here and bend my knees a little bit and cut your thigh all the way to the bone. So you have to watch that exposed front leg. This is one of my favorite things to attack, and it's to expose live hand. People start out like this. As you move them around, this starts to drift away. And pretty soon, it's out here. And it's even out here. Depending on what their experience is, some people even start with their live hand away from their body. That is a beautiful target. Here's how you take advantage of an exposed live hand. Now let's start back in, let's just drift away from the body. When you see that live hand start to drift away from the body, don't look at it. If you look at it, you're going to telegraph your intentions to your opponent. Don't look at it. Notice it, make note of it, and move around, move around, move around, and then without any warning or any telegraphing whatsoever, attack that. You can even make a false attack this way, and look here. As you look here, come back, hit that exposed live hand. Let it drift out. If it even drifts out an inch or two, it's starting to get exposed. If he turns it this way, so it comes out like this, see how those fingers are exposed? If he drifts it out even further, it's even better. Always look for that to start to come out. Now, I want to warn you that when you come in to attack this live hand, let's spin. When I come in to attack this exposed live hand, look how deep I have to go in behind his knife. So you have to do this judiciously. You just can't do it without any planning or without any thought, without any timing. You have to do it in that right moment in time because you're coming deep within his zone of defense, behind this where you're vulnerable coming in. So you need to make sure that his attention is somewhere else when you attack this live hand. And you do that by the look that you give, by your body English, by your thinking, your movements. As you move him, don't look at this thing, you don't even notice that. And then you take it. Never look at it. Just keep it in your peripheral vision, but this is where control of your point and edge comes from. You need the control of your point edge so you can attack that without any hesitation. Your enemy will watch your knife hand. Look where his attention is. When you're moving, if he's watching my knife hand, and I see his eyes move, that's really good because I can lead him to wherever I want. If I watch him, if I can see him watch my knife hand, I can lead him up and drop and cut it. I can lead him to the side and drop and cut it. I can pull him over here and cut it as I switch hands. So watch where his eyes are going. If he's following you, your knife hand, you can lead him to where you want him to be and set him up and attack him in another spot. A lot of times you notice that your opponent, if you're holding your knife up here, his attention is high. Watch where he's looking. Is he looking at your eyes? Is he looking right in your eyes? Is he trying to look at your forehead to get all of your peripheral vision? Is all his attention up here, looking up high? If he's on the high line, attack the low line. Straight him on the high line. Drop him low, come up, stab him in the forearm. Sometimes his attention's down here, and he's looking down here. He's forgot all about the fact that his face and the top of his head is vulnerable. When I see somebody with their tension too low, I attack the top of their head right here and snap cut right there. Bang! It's not going to finish him usually with that stroke, but what you do is you'll split the scalp open and it's going to bleed like rain. I mean, it's just going to storm. The blood is down the front of his face from that cut. It's going to blind him and it's going to scare the living hell out of him. So, just that much with a tanto on the scalp like that, going to cut him wide open. He's going to bleed a lot. So watch for the tension being too low. To make long-range knife fighting work, you have to have movement. You just don't stand still. You need to move them and break them up. Break up their defenses, break up their posture, break up their mindset. What you're going to see is a lapse of attention. I want you to pay attention to this because that lapse of attention is the most important thing I can tell you in knife fighting. It only happens for fractions of a second sometimes. As the guy gets more tired and the fight goes on in length, you're going to have longer lapses of attention. As the knife fight first starts, his attention is going to be pretty good. But if he's not a practiced knife fighter, he's not going to be able to keep his attention at a high level for more than 10 or 20 seconds. After 10 or 20 seconds, it's going to start to degrade pretty quickly. Look for a lapse of attention. As you move, they may be watching your feet, whatever. When you see a lapse of attention, take it. Always look. You can sense this lapse of attention if you look for it. Is he really concentrating on me? Is he seeing the whole picture? Is his mind somewhere else for that split second? When his mind has blanked out or gone somewhere else, even for a fraction of a second, that's when you attack because he's vulnerable. You can take him there, you can deliver a debilitating cut or thrust and end the fight right there with no possibility that he's going to counter. You see your opponent's attention on your footwork. I get this all the time. I'll lead people out, and we're going to show how to do this. I'll lead you out into different patterns. I may start to snake you. Let's get a little room here, Felix. Once you start right there, just stay there. I might snake back and forth. I may come in a little bit so I can move around. I may start to take you around. I'll watch what you're doing. If you're watching my footwork, I may switch my knife hand and cut you. Whenever I see your attention's on my footwork, especially if you look down, you're trying to figure out what I do, I'll attack you in a direction or from a plane or angle you're not expecting. Look to see if your opponent is watching your footwork. If he's watching your footwork, his mind is not on his defense. His mind is not on his offense. He's trying to figure out where you're going to go. That's a lapse of attention. Take advantage of it. I've seen people pose in books this way. They hold their knife too low. If your knife gets below this window of motion, a window of movement, which is again from your shoulder to your shoulder, from your hip to your hip. When your knife drops below this, it's very difficult to defend your high line in your face. If I see his knife dip and it goes below his waist, his head's open. If he drops this, snap cut, a slash, a stab, you have all of that. He's got to go 2.5 feet up to intersect that. Remember, reaction is much slower than initiation. If I'm initiating and he's that far away, the chances of him getting up to defend are very slim to none. He's not going to make it. So don't pose with your knife down here or whatever. No unnecessary posing. When you pose or use a posture, it's got to be for a reason. The other thing I see is the knife is held too high. The knife's up here, high, trying to defend the high line or threaten me from the high line. Look at it. It's a long ways from here to here. So there's a possibility that this lower line is exposed. Now I want to warn you. When you go to the low line, to the leg, and his knife's above you like that, it's chancy, it's risky, because this could be a trap. And I'm going to show you later how we use a high line or a high posture to trap people coming in low underneath our knife. But for a lot of fighters, this is a mistake. They don't know these techniques, and you can get this high line. So whenever you see that high line, there may, and I say may, be an opening that you can attack. You can feint that and even bring him up higher. As you do that, drop and cut his leg off. So something to look for is the knife held too high. The next one I want to show you, and you're going to get this throughout the knife fight, is the opponent when he strikes, especially when he cuts or slashes, he crosses his center line too far. This is the center. When I'm on guard and I slash, if I come out here, what do? I expose my forearm, my shoulder, and my face. If I backhand cut and I come past my center, what do? I expose my face, the whole center of my body, my live hand, my stomach, my groin, my legs. So you want to keep, as much as you can, your slashes, your cuts in this part of your torso, between your shoulders. Whenever you cross that center line that goes down your body too far, you expose something. So watch for your opponent. When he cuts, you can make him miss, and you can get that. Just like that. Watch for him to come past and expose this. A poorly trained knife fighter or untrained knife fighter, he'll assume a stance or posture he's seen in a book, and he'll give you a lot of openings by that. This is going to illustrate a few of these stances or postures. One is he may crouch like this and put his arms wide. When he does that, of course, his arm is vulnerable. Look at this. It's a long distance from here to his face. He's tilted forward. His face is a good target. This whole side of his body can pretty much be attacked with impunity. Let's just turn a little bit so they can see. When he's exposed like this, all of this, one step here could be attacked pretty safely because the knife's clear over here. Let's get some more. This is one I've seen before. The person kind of crouches, puts his non-knife hand and non-knife leg forward, crouches here, uses this as a shield. Again, look where the knife is. It's a long ways back from this. You can step to this side here and easily attack this forward hand, elbow, and leg. The knife hand has a long ways to go. In particular, let's spin this way so they can see. In particular, this is exposed. Let's switch back and come all the way around. Right, now we can see it. From this side, you see this person crouching like this. What you want to do is move to this side a couple times. Make him come over here. As he comes over here, step a big step and attack this flank because it's exposed. This is a vulnerable way to fight. You can't use this arm as a shield. Look at what we did with our cutting demonstrations. You think you can absorb a strike on this arm? No, you're going to be maimed for life. It's a Pyrrhic victory to say that you won the knife fight with your arms dangling like this for the rest of your life. I don't know about you, but I don't feel much like a winner if I can't pick my arm up past my waist anymore in the rest of my life. Don't use your arm as a shield. Let's look at some other stances. I've seen this one a lot on magazines. This is supposed to like to be the Army or Marine Corps or whatever fighting knife stance where you're going to guard like this and attack with your knife. The idea is to protect your knife hand so it doesn't cut. What happens though is you give away this whole arm and you give away your face and you give away this forward leg and the knife hand has to come out here to try to defend around this. No good. Come into that position. When he's like this, as you've learned, all it takes is a quick snap cut. What's he going to do? He's not going to get that arm out of the way. He just gave it to you. Avoid this. Put your knife forward, where I always have to go through this knife to get to the bottom. This scares me. When this is forward and that's back, it's not near as scary. Put that knife hand forward, where every time I want to go to threaten his vitals, I have to cross through the defensive area of this knife. This is dangerous. Anytime I want to come here or here without dealing with this first, it's dangerous. That's why your goal should always be to cut this hand and take that knife away before you go deeper. I've now given you 20 common openings in an opponent's defense that he'll present. These are not all the openings by any means. You'll learn a lot more openings and the nuances of recognizing these openings as you put the hours into sparring. But what I want you to do is you're training with your partners, I want you to practice giving him these openings, making yourself vulnerable so he learns to recognize these. Review these and go through them so they're burned into your memory so that when you see them, you can act instantaneously. As you spar, you'll recognize even more openings. Practice. Along with a good understanding of the openings that an opponent may give you in his defense, you need to have some proper strategy if you're going to make your long-range knife fighting method work for you successfully. One of the first things I want you to be aware of is not everybody fights out of a good fighting stance. A lot of times people will attack you in a real wild, unconventional manner, and you need to be aware of that. I'm going to demonstrate how an unorthodox or untrained man might attack you.